AI doesn't replace skilled people. It just gives our team more time to use their skills where it really matters and where it really counts. So
What are some common misconceptions do businesses have about competing with larger competition?
Pepsi is a challenger brand to Coke. Coke outspends Pepsi significantly. So Pepsi is a challenger brand.
John Gumas is the CEO of Gumas Advertising. He knows what it takes to win when the odds are stacked against you. He's been helping challenger brands, from scrappy startups to big players, take on industry giants for over 40 years. In this episode, he's sharing the biggest mistakes companies make, why smart messaging always beats big budgets, and how his team is using AI the right way.
And the one mistake that we see over and over, that companies, they just start advertising, they just start marketing, they're just out there spending money. And I pretty much stop and say, I can't honestly look you in the eye and do a good job for you without going through this process to understand, why someone is truly going to buy your product.
What AI-powered tactics are you actually implementing for creative or media efficiency?
We absolutely welcome AI, especially when it comes to efficiency. So AI is a tool. It's here to stay. It's phenomenal. We're just not ready for AI to replace the human emotional touch when it comes to messaging.
So what is your go-to playbook for creating brand messaging that cuts through the noise and also at the same time kind of converts?
Well, the first thing I say,
Eat coffee with experts.
Hey, John, how's it going?
How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm good. Yeah. Thank you. John, before we move any forward, your journey is quite one that audience should kind of, listen to. So give us more about your journey thus far, and also how did you land up in the digital marketing space? And we'll take it off from there.
Wow. Well, it started a long time ago. I started the company in 1984. So we're in our first year. Rami, I think I had hair back when we started. I had hair like you when I started. But the journey started where, I was working for a couple of big advertising agencies when I was just starting out in college, which I actually have an advertising degree out of college, which I think is kind of unique for this industry. But I remember sitting in meetings with the agency owners, and these companies would come in because they had these great ideas and they wanted to hire the advertising agency. And the first thing the agency owners would ask these business owners is, how much money do you have to spend? And if they didn't say the right number, the agency owners say, sorry, we can't help you. And I remember sitting these meeting after meeting, and these are people had these great ideas. I mean, incredible products, incredible ideas. So one day, there was one gentleman in particular that I really liked what he had to say and do. And so the agency owner said, no, sorry, we can't help you. So I walked him out to the elevator, and we're walking out, and I said, wow, that's such a great idea. What are you going to do? And he says, I don't know. And he says, what are you doing? And he says, why don't you help me? And that's what started Gumas Advertising way back in 1984. And it started as an advertising agency that helped the underdogs, right? Help companies that are competing against other organizations that have significant greater resources, more money. Typically, you think more money, right? Bigger ad budgets, but it takes the form of more sales force, more retail locations, better brand recognition, et cetera, et cetera. So 41 years ago, this concept of challenger brand marketing and a concept of a challenger brand was created. So we trademarked that, and we've been perfecting that methodology ever since. We have lots and lots of clients who we've had for many, many years who started small that are now massive companies are using the methodology. So that's the journey. That's in a 41 years in 3 minutes, a nutshell of the journey.
Lovely. One heck of a journey, I must say. You'd have gone through a lot, right? Give us insights to how it was. The advertising space back in 1984, and you've seen enough summers and winters to, and I would have gone through a lot of Google updates recently, right? So, give us how it looked like back then and how the shift has happened over these years.
Yeah, well, certainly, there wasn't anything digital, right? Back
Yes.
41 years ago. And that's obviously been the shift, the capability to measure what you're doing instantly, that is certainly has changed. But I would argue that there's two sides to this, right? There is the distribution side, how you get the message out there. And there's the development of the messaging side, right? What you say, what you do, how you position yourself. I would say that the way you get the message out there has changed dramatically, night and day. All right, how you do it, what you do, what you're able to measure, even the amount of money that you need to enter the market significantly less now. But what hasn't changed is how you develop a proper message, how you develop a position, how you develop a brand that is going to resonate with people, that's going to break through the clutter, that's going to get people to remember you, that's going to get people to trust you, it's going to get people to want to do business with you, something that you can own and defend from any competitor. That process has not changed, because at the end of the day, it's people talking to people. It's not a company talking to another company. It's people talking to people. And that has not changed. And I don't think it will ever change. So, that's what we focus on a lot, is helping our clients get to that right point, because it really doesn't matter how much money you spend moving forward. If you're not saying the right thing, you're never going to achieve your full potential.
Yes, absolutely. And, talking about challenger brand, you have a book written on it, right? On the logic of it, right? And which became an Amazon bestseller in the advertising category. Congratulations for that.
Thank you very much.
What inspired you to write the sequel to Marketing Smart, and how does it address the challenges brands face today?
Well, I wrote both books actually, but the most recent one, Challenger Brand Marketing, I wrote it because I just saw companies making mistakes over and over again. And I just felt that they needed to understand that if you are a challenger brand and you are competing against other companies that are larger than you, and just a definition of a challenger brand, it doesn't matter about the size of your company. Pepsi is a challenger brand to Coke. Coke outspends Pepsi significantly. So Pepsi is a challenger brand. So think of that in any category that you can possibly think of. There's a gorilla and there are challengers. The challengers, if you're up against somebody who is spending more money, has more retail locations, has more brand recognition, has more sales force, on and on and on, you cannot compete head to head. If you try to compete head to head, I guarantee you will lose, because you will be outspent, you will be out messaged, you will be out sales forced, all of that. You will just be outnumbered.
You need to pick your battles, right?
Well, not only pick your battles, but need to first understand that you're a challenger brand, and understand that can't really approach this in a conventional marketing way, which most organizations do, because that's what they know. They know conventional marketing, and conventional marketing is about spending as much money as you can. And I'm not saying that challenger brands don't need to spend money. I'm saying that they need to spend it in a very different way, in a smart way, in a way that is going to guarantee them success.
Absolutely. And you touched upon a very important thing, businesses committing mistakes and misconceptions. In your experience, what are some common misconceptions do businesses have about competing with larger competition, and how do you feel they can address them?
Yeah, no, that's such a good question, and I'll tell you, the one that is the most common mistake that we see over and over again, and that is every company guesses or they assume they know what they need to say to a prospective company. They guess and they assume they know what their brand needs to be positioned and how that needs to be positioned. And so we go through a process. And it's probably the most important thing I would argue a company ever does, is go through this, what we refer to as a discovery process. Because through that process, we identify through data and fact, not through guessing and assumption, what the positioning of that company needs to be, what the messaging needs to be. In other words, what are the words you have to say? All right, Rame, what are the words I have to say to you, okay, in 7 seconds or less, to get you to say, wow, John, that's exactly what I'm looking for. That's exactly what I need. I need to get that. That's what you have to do. And unless you go through this process to truly understand what that is, what that message is. Oh, and by the way, say it in a way that is unique to everybody. Say it in a way that you own it from all your competitors. You can defend it from any competitor. Until you get to that point, I don't care what you do from an outbound marketing perspective. I don't care how much money you spend. You're never going to get the maximum return, because the challenger brand marketing process depends and thrives on saying what resonates with your potential customer, saying it in a way that builds your brand, saying it in a way that creates a niche in a very unique way that you can own and defend, right? So until you have that and you go through that process, so the long answer to your question, the one mistake that we see over and over, that companies just start advertising, they just start marketing, they're just out there spending money. And we have companies that come to us all the time, say, John, please, let's start advertising. You want to do this, that. And I pretty much stop and say, I can't honestly look you in the eye and do a good job for you without going through this process to understand, why someone is truly going to buy your product versus a competitive product. Why are they going to buy your product in an emotionally driven way? Why are they going to buy your product and become a raving fan? Right. So you got to know that. And that's the first thing that we go through is through the challenger brand process, is discovering and understanding that. So when we're ready to start advertising, all of a sudden it just really works really, really well. And I can give you example after example, case study after case study of clients that we currently have that have are just reaping the benefits and a huge success.
Right. And talking about challenger brands, let's say you've worked on a campaign, or let's say any campaign by any marketer, right? What are the measurable parameters on which you measure the success of a challenger brand compared to, let's say, the industry leader or an industry giant in that segment or niche?
Well, you know what? I think that you're never going to you don't want to measure against the industry giant. Okay, the industry giant is the giant for a reason. They spending
will be topping the charts, right?
Yeah, and I would, Ranmai, I would even argue that the goals of some of our clients are to be purchased by the industry giant. That many times that's been a goal, an ultimate goal of some of our clients. So with that, right? So how do you become a thorn in the side of the industry giant? Not, again, that's a different strategy, right? Trying to overtake them, because that is probably not a realistic strategy for the majority of challenger brands. But becoming a thorn in their side, where you're going after their weak points, right? And it's not just the industry giant; it's anyone who's above you. Okay, it could be one giant, but it could be multiple companies that are above you. And it's just how do you differentiate yourself against them? What is it about your customer, your prospective customer? What are they looking for? What do they want? And then how do you articulate that in a way that gets that prospective customer to go, wow, it's exactly what I'm looking for. It's exactly what I want. Nobody in the market is offering that. That's what I want. And you say it in a way that's so unique that no one else can say that, because you own it and you brand it. And that brand, that becomes yours. That message becomes yours. So no other competitor can ever come in and try to take that from you.
Absolutely. And talking about storytelling, a lot of brands kind of have their own way of putting out messages, right? And today's a world overrun by content. So what is your go-to playbook for creating brand messaging that cuts through the noise and also at the same time kind of converts?
Yeah, no, that's it. Well, the first saying I say, do not guess, and or do not assume. And it's so there's this natural phenomenon that happens when anyone who is within a company. You live that every day, you breathe it every day, you know it so well. So it's literally impossible for you to step outside and look at your organization like a prospective new customer would. Okay, you can't do that because you know your company so well. So think about journey, right, of a prospective new customer who does not know who you are. That prospective new customer has a lot of choices. They have competitor A, competitor B, competitor C, D, E, and U. What is it that how do you differentiate yourself? Well, that's the part that you cannot guess at. That's the part you cannot assume. That's the part you cannot say, oh yeah, I know exactly what my customer wants. Because what happens, like this phenomena we're talking about, is you know it so well, you assume others do as well. That is nowhere near the reality of what happens. So what challenger brands need to do is truly step back and go through this process to understand, right, what it is that their prospective new customer needs to hear them say, because it's the words that are more important than the execution. Because if the words are right, and the words resonate, they say what you need that prospect needs to hear. You're saying it in a way that differentiates you from the competition, and you're saying it in a way that's unique to you. Now, all of a sudden, all of your marketing, whether it's digital, whether it's point of sale, whatever it is, even your sales, your presentations are going to work significantly better because you're saying what they need to hear. versus just spending money on advertising tactical elements.
Absolutely, absolutely. Finally, John, what AI powered tactics are you actually implementing for creative or media efficiency? And just to add to that, what is your general take about AI as well?
Well, you know what? I think if we have this conversation 6 months from now, my take is going to be completely different because it's changing that fast.
Yeah.
And I think that's the
Right.
part that makes it scary. But I can tell you where, generally how we look at it. I mean, we absolutely welcome AI, especially when it comes to efficiency, when it
Love
comes to streamlining processing. We welcome it. But we just not so much though when it comes to the actual creation of content. Okay, the creation of what we describe, the messaging, the words, because that needs to have emotion attached to it. That needs to really come from a human being. And I get AI is pretty good, but at the end of the day, we kind of pride ourselves on producing original, thoughtful work. So we use AI more as a tool, right, to support our creative process than to replace it. I'll give you an example. Like let's just take something that everyone knows, ChatGPT, right? So we'll use something like ChatGPT to help generate site maps for new websites. What used to take hours to create now takes minutes. Now that frees up our team to focus on things like strategy, design, challenger brand messaging. We also used AI to spark writing prompts, right? To help rephrase something to be a much more specific tone or voice, but the final content is always human made. So bottom line, right, for us, AI doesn't replace skilled people. It just gives time, gives our team more time to use their skills where it really matters and where it really counts. So AI is a tool. It's here to stay. It's phenomenal. We're just not ready for AI to replace the human emotional touch when it comes to messaging. So but it's like I said, 6 months from now, you and I are going to have a really different conversation because it's going to be changing that quickly.
I'm glad you mentioned that, AI not being able to replace humans, at least till now, where we are, right? So yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Perfect, John. This has been a great conversation, but before we let you go, I would like to play a quick rapid fire. I hope you're game for it.
All right, let's go. Be kind to me.
Sure. Let's say your first paycheck of your life. What did you do with it?
I put it in the bank.
Entrepreneur from day one.
Well, after I paid my rent and took my girlfriend to dinner and all that, yeah, I think I had like 4 cents left and I put it in the bank.
Okay. Your last Google search.
Ron May Roth.
That is a good one. All right. Okay, moving on. I'll not ask you what Google threw at you when you put that keyword. Okay. So moving on. Your favorite vacation spot or your favorite location?
London.
Okay. All right. Why is that? I mean, if I may ask.
I love the energy of the place. I'm a city guy versus a beach guy. I love the restaurants. I love the culture. I love everything about it.
The vibe of the
sophistication, the elegance, all of it.
Right. Okay. Your favorite sport?
Baseball.
Your celebrity crush?
Oh my gosh. I can't say that. My wife might be listening.
Yeah. We're going to promote this all over the place and send her an email of this podcast as well.
Boy, I'm not gonna answer that one. You're just gonna get me in trouble.
Or you can just send me an email. We'll just do the editing part. All right, go for it now, John.
All right, I'd say Jennifer Aniston.
There we go. All right, well, not really any further, John. You have been a sport. Thank you so much for taking our time to do this with us. For our audiences, if they want to reach out to you, how would they do that?
My email is jgumas@gumas.com. That's JGUMAS. You can go to gumas.com to check us out as well and send me an email, mention your name. I will respond right away.
Lovely. Thank you so much, John, for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.